Think back to a moment in your life you didn't choose. Maybe it was the day you got laid off. Maybe it was the breakup you didn't see coming. Maybe it was when someone you trusted let you down. We've all been there, a moment we didn't ask for, a moment that broke something inside us. Now pause for a second. What did you do next? Because that moment, the one that comes after, defines everything. Not the crisis itself, but how you respond. Life is chaotic, unpredictable, messy. It doesn't ask your permission before changing everything. And that's not a flaw. That's how it's supposed to be. The real question isn't whether you'll face difficulty. The real question is, what story do you choose to write with what you've been handed? There's a mindset that shifts everything instantly. Not in theory, not someday, but the very moment you choose it. It's the mindset of ownership over circumstance. And here's what it really means. We've been taught to believe that if we do the right things, life will reward us. Get the degree, get the job, get approval. But life doesn't follow that script. And when it breaks the rules, our first reaction is to point outward. It's my boss, my past, the system. My luck? Yes, those things matter. But they don't define you. What separates the fulfilled from the frustrated isn't what they've been through. It's what they do with what they've been through. Ownership is not denial. It's direction. It means saying, this happened. I didn't choose it, but now it's mine to deal with, and that changes everything. Because when you take ownership, you stop being the victim of your story and become its author. Let me tell you about Carlos. He had gone through trauma, addiction, loss, failure. One day he stood up at a workshop and said something I'll never forget. I spent 20 years waiting for someone to save me. Then I realized I was the one coming. That was the moment everything changed for him. Ownership is a decision to respond instead of react, to stop waiting for life to get easier and start getting stronger. It doesn't mean you're to blame for everything that happens. It means you're responsible for how you rise from it. Ownership shifts you from explanation to execution. It says, yes, that was unfair. Yes, I wish it was different. But I'm not waiting anymore. I'm building. I'm choosing. I'm moving forward. When you choose ownership, you start showing up differently. In relationships, you stop expecting others to complete you. You start meeting them from a place of wholeness. You set boundaries. You lead with integrity, not insecurity. In your career, you stop waiting for direction. You start creating impact. In your health, it's no longer about force. It's about internal alignment. Greater than, this is my body, my mind, my energy. I choose to care for it. So the next time something goes wrong, and it will, pause. Ask yourself, what would full ownership of this moment look like? Then do it. Act, lead, take the first step. Now let's talk about the second mindset, because even when you take ownership, there's another trap that keeps people stuck: the obsession with results. We live in a culture obsessed with outcomes. Followers, salaries, grades, promotions. From childhood, we're taught to chase the finish line, win the trophy, get the house, get the car. And somewhere along the way, we start measuring our worth by how far ahead or how far behind we are. But this obsession with results is exhausting. And worse, it's hollow. Because no matter how much you achieve, not enough always comes back. You hit the goal, and the goalpost moves. You reach the top and see another peak in the distance. There's another way to live. Fall in love with the process. Not because results don't matter, but because the process is where identity is built. I met a young athlete, talented, disciplined, but burnt out. Not because he didn't love the sport, but because every match felt like a test. When I asked him what first made him love the game, he smiled. The training, the smell of the gym, the sound of my shoes, the rhythm of getting better, that was the part he had forgotten and needed to return to. When you measure your value only by outcomes, you become transactional with your life. You show up only when there's a reward, and that makes you fragile, because not every good effort gives you applause right away. but every effort builds something in you. The process is where your transformation happens. It's where your character, your focus, your resilience are formed. Outcomes are snapshots. The process is the story. Ask yourself not, what will I get if I do this? Ask, who will I become if I keep doing this? Because when you fall in love with the process, you don't quit when results are delayed. You're not working for a moment, you're working for meaning, and that is unshakable. Now let's talk about the third mindset, because even when you own your life, even when you commit to the process, and there's one more shift that unlocks true transformation: identity before outcome. Most people believe they have to achieve something before they can become someone. Once I lose weight, I'll feel healthy. Once I get the promotion, I'll be a leader. Once I start the business, I'll be an entrepreneur. That mindset keeps you chasing, always reaching, never becoming. The truth is, you become the person first. Then the results follow. You don't wait to feel like the person you want to be. You decide to become that person. Now, I met a guy who ran his first marathon. When I asked him what the hardest part was, he didn't say race day. He said, believing I was a runner before I'd even run a mile. But the day I woke up and said out loud, I'm a runner, everything changed. He became the identity before he had the result, and that identity shaped his behavior. This is why people struggle with consistency. They try to change actions without changing self-belief. I'm trying to wake up early versus I'm the kind of person who starts the day with intention. Words matter. Identity matters, because behavior follows belief. When you step into a new identity, even before anyone else sees it, you start showing up like that person, and the world starts to reflect it back. That mindset eliminates the gap between now and someday. It replaces waiting with becoming, and it makes your life lighter, clearer, more aligned. So ask yourself, who is the person I want to become? Not the title, not the number, the kind of person. Then start living like them. Today, the last mindset is the one that anchors all the others. Because even if you own your life, love the process, and step into identity, what happens when motivation disappears? Because it will. There will be mornings when you don't feel it, when the energy's low, when the reasons fade. And in those moments, your life will reflect not your goals, but your default, your values or your moods. The most powerful mindset: live by values, not moods. One CEO told me, greater than I don't trust how I feel in the morning. I trust the commitments I made the night before. That's discipline. That's alignment. Because your mood is a snapshot, but your values are the story. People who live by values don't wait to feel like it. They don't cancel on themselves. They show up, tired, scared, distracted, and do what matters. I knew a woman training for a triathlon while raising kids, working full-time and recovering from injury. I asked her how she stayed consistent. She said, discipline is how I respect myself. Her value wasn't performance, it was self-respect. And that's what drove her. We underestimate how powerful it is to live by principles, to build your life not on emotions, but on intention, integrity, compassion, growth, courage. When you live by values, your life becomes stable, not boring, grounded. You know how you'll treat people when things go wrong. You know how you'll respond when no one's watching. You bring stability into the storm. Your feelings matter. They're messengers, but they're not rulers. Values are the foundation you stand on while moods pass through. So today, write down your values and then live them, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because your life doesn't change when your emotions do. It changes when your direction does. When you live by values, your consistency becomes your character, and your character becomes your legacy. So let's bring it all together. Own your life, fall in love with the process, step into your identity, live by your values. Don't wait for the world to change. Change how you meet the world, because that changes everything.